In fantasy football, people talk about the draft as if it is like this miraculous thing that if you do well in it, it's going to mean you get a championship. To be honest, I am here to tell you that that is true, but it definitely isn't. I think it's more not true than it is true. And the reason I say that is because the draft only means anything if you get value. If you get value at the pick that you have, that means different things at each round of the draft. Okay, value in the first round means different than value in the 7th or 8th round. Shit, the 15th round. Because there's literally value to be found all over the place in the draft. For example, last season, I'm pretty sure it was my last round pick. This is now let me tell you something. The last round, nobody's actually on the draft board. People are on TikTok. Maybe people are hiking. Maybe they're bird watching, but they have exited the draft room because they don't even care. Most of the people are on auto draft, and I think most people would see that in their leagues as well. Our league was no different. We drafted in Las Vegas, and I'd say past the 10th round, we were already walking through the casino with our rum and coke plastic cups. Okay, so no one really cares in later rounds, and that's where the value is. Back to my example. Last season, last round, I selected Cordero Patterson. Probably would have went undrafted. Probably would have sat on the waivers until he became. I mean, at one point he was vying for the first place spot at the top of the running backs for best fantasy back. Cordero Patterson, drafted in the last round, went undrafted, and I would venture to say 95% of leagues. But there was value in that because I thought, hey, he's a pass catcher. And to be honest, I'm not a wizard. Okay, I'll be the first one to say it. I am not a wizard. I didn't somehow figure out a formula to where I, believe Cordero Patterson was going to end up being the number 7th ranked overall running back. No, at least in fantasy terms. No, I'm not going to even say that. I just thought, there's value there. There's value. He shouldn't be a free agent, I believed. He's a valuable backup. He'll get me some points in a PPR format. And look, it ended up, that was what brought me to the playoffs in my fantasy league. Okay. And it was the value of selecting Cordero Patterson. So value is what's important in draft. It's not about drafting the big names. It's not about drafting players. It's not about reaching. Good Lord, reaching is the worst thing you can do in a fantasy football draft. Back to what I was saying about value, figuring out at which round you pick what position is honestly arbitrary. Some people have these guide formulas where they swear you pick a quarterback in the 5th round. 5th round quarterback, anything else is bullshit. That's bullshit because it depends on who you're drafting against. So it's important to understand your competition. What do they think? Are they going to reach on the in the first round for a quarterback? That's important to know. That is super important to know. So first things first, go to lunch with your friend. Buy your friend some edamame, okay? And sit and chat about, hey, and it doesn't have to be collusion. People think I'm talking about collusion. I'm just saying figure out when they're going to select their quarterback because that's what's important. Anyways, I have a couple infographics for you guys because I'm a producer, I make content, and that's just what I do. So the first infographic, we're going to actually bring it up, and it is what is value in a draft. So what determines? I feel like I'm back in middle school presenting a PowerPoint to my French class. I never did well in French class. Mr. Pham literally, he sent me away, I think, a couple times. I mean, one time he bought donuts for everybody, and he said, Brian, you don't get a donut. And that's not even a joke. And I thought he was joking at first, but he wasn't. He says, no. No do nada. No do nada for you. Okay, that's just stupid. We're gonna stop talking about that. Um, Number one, who fell to you unexpectedly this season? This example for me was Debo Samuel. First round, fourth overall pick, I selected Justin Jefferson. Second round, I was dead set on selecting a running back. We're in a PPR league, but running backs are hard to come by. So obviously, people are grabbing in the early rounds for good running backs. So I swore I was going to get a running back, and I saw Debo Samuel was available after 14 picks. Actually, at that point, it was 18 picks because I'm the fourth overall pick. So everybody passed up Debo, and for whatever reason, I look at it, he just got a great contract. He's in for the 49ers offense, which is going to need some sparks. You got Trey Lance, a young QB, but if he's going to perform, he's going to need that guy. And that guy, well, he's going to have two guys. He's going to have Kittle and Debo Samuel. So I picked up Debo. And guess who I also picked up? I picked up Kittle in the 5th round. Last season, I selected Kittle in the 3rd round, and that was a bit of a reach. But I'll tell you what, if Kittle's available after the 4th round, you grab him. That dude is a force of nature. Okay, so needless to say, I'm going to be watching a lot of 49ers games, but that's what we're talking about. You got to be aware of the circumstances. You have to know, okay, hey, I wanted to select a running back, but this great wide receiver is available. I have to pick him up. Number 2, role players in a great system. For me, last season, that was Elijah Mitchell. Okay, Raheem Mostert and the 49ers got hurt. Elijah Mitchell came in and got plugged into a great system. Now, is he an all-star running back? Maybe. More likely, he got plugged into that Shanahan offense of just grind it out, run down the throat, some play actions to Kittle and Debo every once in a while. Otherwise, we're going vertically up the field. And it worked out great for me. So sometimes it's not about the big name, it's about selecting a guy in a system who I think potentially even like Hunter Henry on the Patriots. I think he's going to be an undervalued tight end this season. I think that he's in a good system with Mac Jones over there. So I think that's another guy that you got to look at. A good player in a great system. That's really what you got to look for. Breakout potential. That's obvious. Are they going to break out? Who knows? You might as well try and find out. Number 4, strength of schedule. Strength of schedule, people never really look into before drafts. They just draft based on like individual statistics and where ESPN ranks them. And I think that is just outlandish. You have to at least look at the season for each team and say, hey, who plays like really bad rush defenses throughout the year? Maybe they would be someone that you want to draft your running back from. What if that running back is Antonio Gibson, who you didn't really think, whatever, doesn't really have the star power that you'd like? But guess what? Maybe he has the 6th overall, strength of schedule in favor of a running back. So you got to look at those things. Strength of schedule is obviously extremely important in defense as well. Almost some people exclusively draft not even draft, but like stream defenses according to matchups, because obviously you could play the worst defense against the worst offense, and guess what? You'd still probably be in the positive on the defensive end of things. So it's important to know that as well. Okay. What determines value? You see, I don't even like this graph, and I look at it, and frankly, I'm disappointed that I even put it up because it reminds me of a PowerPoint. The font is okay as far as like readability. I don't think it's like necessarily super readable, so that's like another problem with it. Number 5, and most definitely not the last and least important one, is insurance policies. Handcuffs. We're talking mostly handcuffs, but also backups just in case. Like I'll give you a real life example. This season, I drafted Antonio Gibson, and there's some reports that literally just came out a couple days after I drafted him that in training camp he isn't looking that great. Who is looking great? The rookie, I think is it Brian? I think he might have the same name as me, Brian Robinson, the rookie that they drafted in the third round. And guess what? If a team drafted a running back in the third round or above, they're going to try to use that running back. They obviously feel that there is a need for that running back to be there, whether it's as a receiver out of the backfield or a third down back, whatever it is, they're going to play that guy. Maybe not into fantasy relevancy necessarily, but they're going to play him. You know what I mean? So I drafted Brian Robinson super late in our draft because I thought, hey, if Antonio Gibson, for whatever reason, gets benched or even hurt, but even benched, I have the guy that's going to fill that role. Granted, McKissick might be in the mix. Actually, 100% he'll be in the mix, but I'll take the rookie. I'll take the third round chances. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying value. That's where the value's at. Wow, man, I should have some water. Okay. Water has been drank. Neck has been cracked. Let's carry on. When we talk about value, we're going to have to talk about finding the best offensive lines. So I've done you guys the courtesy of throwing up, honestly, this infographic looks a little bit better than my last one, but here is the top offensive lines in the league as of right now, and these are just estimations. We're looking at number 1, Eagles, 2, Browns, 3, Lions, 4, Buccaneers, 5, the Pack. We're looking at the Cowboys at number 6, but we all know the Cowboys. Number 7, we got the Patriots, Bengals, Chiefs, and Colts. So there's a lot of valuable running backs in this mix of top 10 teams, at least from an offensive line point of view. For example, I talked about almost or at least wanting to draft a running back in the second round, and I didn't because I saw Debo. That running back I was going to draft is DeAndre Swift on the Lions. As you can see from my beautiful infographic, the Lions are the number 3 overall ranked line at the moment. What that means is I saw the fact that they'll give that guy like 22 plus carries a game, and he has relevancy as a receiver out of the backfield. I mean, they use him more than a fat kid uses an insulin injector. Okay, and frankly, that joke was in poor taste. It was terrible. It was off the top, and I want to apologize to my fans. But seriously, you find value in that. Aaron Jones, Packers, gonna be good value because he's gonna be most likely at least a top 10 running back. He has the ceiling to be in the top 5 fantasy wise, but he isn't gonna go in those first early picks. He might even reach the top of the second round. You just don't know. And that's the thing about values. You got to keep your eyes open. Okay. Chiefs, Mr. Clyde. Colts, Jonathan Taylor, there's no value there. He's going number 1 overall in most people's leagues. And if he doesn't go number 1 overall, it's probably because some Rams fan has a hard-on for Cooper Kupp. Bengals, Joe Mixon. If you do draft Joe Mixon, please find a way to get Samaje Perine on your bench. Okay, he's a late round flyer, but you're going to want to get Samaje if you have Joe Mixon. Mixon's had some shoulder issues. It's no secret, so you're going to want to make sure you have your insurance policy. Remember that. Okay, we were talking about value running backs because of offensive lines. I went ahead and made another infographic, okay? Because that's what I do. Ugh, this one doesn't look good. It doesn't. And I'm learning, you guys. I learn every day, and that I am disappointed with that infographic. But anyways, great lines, good value. Let's take it to the board. We've got Leonard Fournette. This is a guy, when we're looking at the top offensive lines, you saw the Buccaneers at number 4, correct? Great. Guess who leads that backfield? Leonard Fournette. And I'll tell you what, man, Lenny, is a beast, and he won't go in the first two rounds, most likely in your draft. So if you're wanting a potential top 10, top 15 running back, Leonard Fournette, I think, is going to have a big season. I don't even know if you guys can read that, but Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. I drafted Damian Harris relatively late. Only reason why I drafted him is because there was value, because I thought he got passed up. I mean, I think it was like the 6th round or something, which, I mean, he ended a top 10 back or potentially top 12 back last season, fantasy wise, at least in the later half of the season, because I had him last season too. What makes me nervous about it is Ramondre Stevenson is like that guy that could end up just taking his reps as well. So maybe as an insurance policy, you draft both of them and take Ramondre a little later. Um, I didn't get that luxury. Someone swooped up Ramondre from me, so I didn't really get that. So I'm just gonna have to hope that Damian Harris like retains that role, which I think he will. I think he will. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, last season was disappointing, no doubt. He definitely didn't turn any heads from a fantasy perspective. He did deal with some injuries. Daryl Williams pretty much took a lot of that fantasy credit from him as he was dealing with those injuries. But this season, I think he's going to be healthy. And the Chiefs, not only, let's go back to that offensive lines, the Chiefs not only have the number 9 ranked offensive line, so they're in the top 10 offensive lines. They also have Patrick Mahomes. So you're not, and I don't care if Tyreek Hill left, okay, it doesn't matter. Patrick Mahomes will take whoever he has, Mecole Hardman, Byron Pringle, Marcus Valdez Scantling, Juju Smith Schuster is now the guy. He will take whoever he has and he's going to make them great. And he's going to put the ball right on the money on a 60-yard go route, and they're going to score points. So it doesn't even matter. They can't even crowd the box to try to stop any supposed run. And I think Clyde, I mean, that little dude, he's got the wiggles. And we saw it in his rookie season. We saw the flash. We saw that the flash of fantasy greatness from him. And I think Clyde is going to be one of the most valuable backs out of the draft. And the reason why I think he's the most valuable is because I think he's going in the 5th or 6th, or who knows, 5th or 6th, 7th round. And I think he has a RB1, fringe RB2, or I guess I should say RB2, fringe RB1 status. Okay, so Clyde Edwards, if you haven't drafted yet, definitely keep him on your radar. We talked about the backs. Let's talk about the receivers on the outside. Value on the outside. Luckily, if you're in a PPR league like I am, it's easier to find value at wide receiver than it is to find value at running back. But nonetheless, you're going to need them to succeed. So you got to take a look at them. Okay. Kadarius Toney. Now, Kadarius Toney, I think, beats out Holloway, Galloway, whatever, Galladay. I think Kadarius beats him out as the number 1 receiver. I don't think Daniel Jones is that bad to not make that receiver like at least a flex fringe wide receiver 2. Kadarius Toney. I'm not saying he's going to have a breakout Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson type season, but I think he is going to be very, very valuable in a draft because he's going in maybe the 7th or 8th round, especially if you have no Giants fans in your league. I have a Giants fan in our league, and he scooped him up. He probably reached on him a little bit. I think there was a lot of good sleeper picks in this draft, to be honest. I think there was a lot of rookies. You look at Pickett, or both Pickett and Pickens. Those are 2 rookies with fairly similar names that you see there. But man, I hope they start Pickett at quarterback. Like what's Trubisky gonna do that he hasn't already done in the league? And that is be a mediocre quarterback. And I'm sorry, dude. I have nothing against the dude, like on a personal level, but you know who I do have something against on a personal level, and that's Mason Rudolph. Okay, just looking at the guy, I think that's not who I want starting on my team. So you take out Trubisky, you take out Mason Rudolph, and you got a rookie with an absolute cannon who's going to stretch the field. Okay, we're looking at Claypool. We're looking at homeboy. I don't even think Martavis Bryant is on the Steelers, man. I don't think he's on the Steelers anymore. But that one other dude that everybody's super stoked about, and I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Um, but regardless, I think Chase Claypool is going to be a great move. I jumped the gun on that. Look at, we're already talking about it. But KJ Hamler as well. I'll tell you what, strength of schedules for wide receivers. Guess who has the number one ranked strength of schedule for wide receivers? Which team? The Broncos. Guess who they just got at quarterback? Russell Wilson. They got a decent offensive line. It isn't their strength, but it also isn't in the bottom 5-10 in the league. Okay, they're probably like 15 or 16 or 17 or something like that. But KJ Hamler is going to be that number 3 guy. Okay, obviously Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. It's almost it's like, which one do you draft? I would have drafted Jerry Jeudy. Barring injury, I think Jerry Jeudy, like his route running is going to really prove to be helpful with Russell Wilson, like getting out open. I think Cortland Sutton's going to be that big, tall, just vertical threat, almost like a Mike Williams is for the Chargers. Either way, I think they're both going to provide good amount of fantasy value there. But I think KJ Hamler is going to be that slot receiver. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe Russell Wilson like develops a affinity with him as his wide receiver. Value. We're talking about value. And I think KJ Hamler has some value. I think he has potential to be a flex. Wide receiver 3 flex option. I think he has that potential. Russell Gage. I think Russell Gage has the potential to be a wide receiver 2. And he's going to go late. He just got drafted from the Falcons to the Buccaneers, and guess who plays on the Buccaneers? You know, we talked about role players that end up getting drafted or traded or whatever picked up by a great system. And I think Russell Gage is going to be that wide receiver that gets picked up by a great system, and then Tom Brady's going to be feeding him. And Russell Gage is no joke, dude. I picked him up like halfway through last season, and he mosses dudes. I actually enjoyed tuning in and watching Russell Gage play. I think Russell Gage may be the most valuable pick at wide receiver in your draft. Russell Gage, I genuinely believe it, because Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, sure, they're awesome. They're also very inconsistent. Take it from me, I drafted Mike Evans last year, and I didn't win the championship in that league. I'll tell you what. Okay, sometimes he's great. A lot of times he isn't. You know, he's injured or he puts up a poor performance. Godwin obviously been dealing with injuries. I think Russell Gage, and one thing about Russell Gage, remarkably consistent. Not a super injury prone guy, not a guy that is going to be dealing with drama issues. I mean, he is going to be Tom Brady's best friend this season. I don't think he outperforms Godwin or Evans necessarily, but I think he's that like Hunter Renfrow type of like situation for Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. So Russell Gage, I don't have him. I hope you get him. Okay. Chase Claypool, we already talked about. I think they start Pickett at some point, and I think Pickett and Chase Claypool become homies. Okay, I just get this feeling that even though he may be the number 2 receiver in that offense, I still think he's going to be a very nice pick at the value, especially the value I got him. I think I got him in like the 7th round or 6th round. I would have to double check that, but I got him at, in my opinion, a steal. It's probably because of the uncertainty at the quarterback position. You know what I mean? But I think Pickett's a beast, so I don't think it's going to be that much of a problem. You know what I'm saying? Wow, I gotta reload. Oh. So we looked at best value at backs. We looked at the top offensive lines. We talked about value, okay? But I think at the end of the day, value in a draft is the most underrated part about a draft. Some people look at their draft as their first few picks being the most important thing in a season, and just ask the people who drafted Christian McCaffrey, last season, or for all the other seasons he's let fantasy managers down. I mean, sometimes, and it's weird how it happens, but it almost seems like a cosmic karma that happens when you draft some players early on that are like, it's seemingly too good to be true. They tend to get injured. Like Christian McCaffrey, I mean, I think it was at his rookie season or sophomore season, he broke fantasy records. I mean, he was like the fantasy guy that you wanted on your team. Next season, torn ACL, out. Next season comes back. Hey guys, I'm back. Gets hurt again. Chuba Hubbard just takes his reps. By the way, I drafted Chuba Hubbard as an insurance policy. Remember rule number 5. You gotta have contingency plans, okay? You gotta have contingency plans. But needless to say, value is value, and you want it when you go to Walmart. You want it when you go to Best Buy, although you're not gonna get it. You're not gonna get value at Best Buy. Man, Best Buy reminds me of like a Fry's Electronics that just hasn't hit the door. That exit door. Because Amazon is just taking all their business. Okay, but that is besides the point. We aren't talking about macroeconomics. We are talking about fantasy football. I think value in a snake draft comes down to being patient. For example, like if you're going to go for a quarterback, if you're going to go for like one of the top quarterbacks, third round, okay, maybe second round. If you're like me and you're in a 6-point passing touchdown situation, like they tend to go quicker. But jump on like the top 5 quarterbacks, like early-ish, third. But if you're not one of those guys, like if you're not trying to pick up Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, let's say, Aaron Rodgers, scratch all the rest, Aaron Rodgers. If you're not going to get one of those guys, then go ahead and wait till like the 6th round. And you're going to get value on like a Derek Carr. Okay. Speaking of value, Devontae Adams goes over there. He's a beast. He'll make Derek Carr better. So that's what I'm talking about. Find the value. Sure, is Derek Carr Justin Herbert? As a Chargers fan, I can tell you he is not. He is not, and he will never be. But can he provide you value in a draft? Yes. And those are the guys you're going to want to find. You're going to want to find the value picks. You're not going to want to find the all-star studs that might get injured. You want to have depth. You want to have insurance policies, and you want to get players, even if they're role players, you're going to want to get those players that are in a good system. We're talking running backs on the 49ers. We're talking running backs on the Patriots for that matter. Okay. Those are the guys you're going to want to look for, because at the end of the day, it isn't about who you draft in the first few rounds. It's about who you're patient for, who you've done the research, you've done the strength of schedule analysis, you've done the analysis, and you think, I'm gonna pick that guy. Those are the guys that are gonna win you the league, not the top picks. But just remember, in your draft, go for value. Value is king. They say cash is king, but in fantasy football, value is king. And if you're not winning on the waiver wires, I sure hope you're winning at getting valuable draft picks. Okay? So I think that's going to do it for the video. I've got a new setup here. I got fake plants. I've got lighting. So obviously I'm taking shit pretty seriously. On YouTube, you should go ahead and subscribe if you haven't. On Twitch, you should go ahead and send me all your money if you haven't. And and we're gonna have some fun this season. because obviously Off the Bench was a podcast. Now it is still a podcast, but it's more of a show. It's visual as well. And we're on Twitch and YouTube now instead of just Apple Podcast or Spotify. So, you know, I think that's gonna do it for the video. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. And until next time, buenos suertes, buenos noches, and hasta luego.